Hello everyone and welcome to Crypto Atlas. In this video, I'm going to be going over how SafeMoon can actually hit $1. And I know that may sound absolutely crazy. I totally get it, but I've done a lot of research into this and I think you guys are going to find this very interesting. So if you guys are new to the channel, do not forget to hit subscribe for more cryptocurrency news and technical analysis, which does include SafeMoon. And also, if you can, click the thumbs up like button. Definitely helps us out with the YouTube search algorithm, and click the bell icon so that you know whenever we have a new video. With that being said, guys, I am not a financial advisor. Everything that I'm sharing is based on my own opinion, my own point of view. I highly encourage you guys to go do more research on your own. And if you guys want to check me out on Twitter, I am on Twitter at CryptoAtlasYT. You guys can see my handle right up there on the top. Okay, so how exactly can SafeMoon hit $1? Well, let's go ahead and go over some key points for you guys to start with. First off, when this started off as a token, it actually had 1 quadrillion tokens. That's a lot. When you take a look at some of the other things comparatively, like for example, Bitcoin is only ever going to have 21 million. So it's a big, huge difference between those two, obviously. You see other comparable coins that have a 1 billion total supply. Even that seems like a lot. And in short, the lower the amount of total tokens, the easier it is to get price movement whenever there's a trade going on between those actual tokens. Because when you have more, you need more movement. Make sense? And excuse me, I do have some allergy type problems. So I apologize if you guys hear me cough and stuff from time to time. I'm trying to control it the best that I can. So you guys take a look at this. First off, if you didn't know, SafeMoon has what is called tokenomics, and it is a burning-based mechanic. So every transaction, there's 10% of a transaction fee, 5% of which is going to a burn wallet, okay? So that burn wallet means that it's inaccessible, it's not existing anymore, it's not part of the system. And so in reality, the circulating supply, the total supply is actually going down with every single trade. So starting with 1 quadrillion may sound like a lot, but in reality, we've already ended up burning 411 trillion of these tokens in approximately 2 months of time from its inception. So do keep that in mind, okay? Now moving on with this. How can we hit $1? Okay, so when you look at the market capitalization to identify how each individual token is going to be represented, you need to take into account that when you have a 1-to-1 ratio, that means for $1, we're going to need to have 1 quadrillion dollars from when it first started. Okay, so that's unfeasible, right? That means nobody owns it except for one person. You can claim till the cows come home that it's going to be it's worth $1 quadrillion, but just because you're the only holder of it doesn't mean anyone else is going to, want it. So that is going to be out of the question. And on top of it too, as I mentioned, we've already burned a ton of these tokens, so there's nothing to really consider in regards to that. Now, next up is, let's say we went to 100 trillion, okay? So this is actually going to be 25 times the all-time high as of the time of me making this video. The all-time high we hit was approximately $4 billion worth of valuation. Okay, this would mean that we have approximately 10% of the total supply left, meaning we burned through 90%. Remember, we started with 1 quadrillion, so this is saying that we've burned 900 trillion of these coins. How many of these wallets actually possess this amount of coins? Well, I actually went ahead and took a look through all of this, and as you guys can see here, this is off the top listing ranks. We don't have any that have this amount. So if you're looking for 100 trillion inside of one account, you're not going to see it. On top of that too, I want to go ahead and make note that this top account right here, this is the burn wallet, the one that has the 41.12%. So don't really stress out by seeing that. I mean, this one here that has the 3.8%, I want to keep an eye on that and see how that moves. That one currently has $190 million worth of value that's in it, and it is fairly active. So yeah, you guys can actually see some of the activity that's gone on here. Just for example, there was one earlier today that was a transaction out. They were selling about almost 12 and a quarter or so billion of these coins, right? So you got the million, billion, so 12.38 billion. But the good news is, again, every time that you do a transaction with this, you're actually going to see the total supply go down in these larger account wallets. We kind of want that to happen to be honest, because that means we're going to accelerate faster getting towards these lower total amount of coins, meaning that it's easier again to make it get towards that $1 price point. So can we hit a $1 valuation with something like this? This would mean we would need $100 trillion. So that's very unlikely. I mean, we're so early in the stages of this industry space. When you take a look at Bitcoin, for example, you guys can actually see the market capitalization for Bitcoin is over $1 trillion. But that would mean that SafeMoon is 100 times more valuable than that of Bitcoin. The likelihood of that happening is next to nothing. Now, in the future, you got a lot of other factors that could play out. Is it theoretically possible? Yes, anything is theoretically possible, but I wouldn't bank on it at all, guys. I mean, Bitcoin has a lot of credibility behind it, and for it to be king of all the cryptos, there's a significant reason behind something like that. However, that's not to say that SafeMoon can't play an important role within this ecosystem and also have some good price points as well. So I'm going to go ahead and rule out the option of 100 trillion, but let's say we have 1 trillion, okay? So 1 trillion is comparable. We see that Bitcoin has been able to achieve that. So in the future, could SafeMoon potentially hit that? I mean, more than likely, Bitcoin is going to be at another price point. So if Bitcoin is, let's say, 10 times, 50 times, 100 times higher, for this to be considered 1/100th of that amount, it is something that's possible when you factor in that there's thousands of these other coins. Sure, you've got the establishment with things like Ethereum, the Binance coin, Cardano. I mean, the list can go on and on for all of these things, right? Uniswap, SushiSwap, for example. Even Dogecoin is on a higher market cap rank, but we're going to talk about that as well here in a second. So can 1 trillion be possible? I do look at it as a possibility, but as of this exact moment in time, is it a possibility? And the answer to that is no. So I'm going to go ahead and move my webcam up here so you guys can see. There are currently 34 wallets that have more than 1 trillion of these SafeMoons. Okay, so you guys can actually see I'm not factoring in that top wallet account. I know another one of them said it was like a pancake swap or something like that. So that one more than likely doesn't really count that much as well either. But I mean, that one still has some liquidity to it, right? The burn wallet is something that's just non-existent in that position there. So you guys can see here that we have a bunch of these wallets that are still in existence. So in order for us to have a total position like that, we're going to need to have some major changes. That means that these people that have more than this, every single one of them is going to have to be out of the equation. They're going to have to have traded off or sold off at some point in order for us to be able to get down to that position. Because literally, you can't have 1 trillion total coins if there's at least one person that has more than 1 trillion coins. And more than likely, you combine all the other wallet addresses together, and it's going to be way, way more than 1 trillion, right? It wouldn't make any sense that there's 2 people or something, or everyone has point whatever. So that's likely not going to end up happening. So until that actual position decides to change. So once again, if the 34 wallets as a starting point, all of those are gone, then everything else starts to shuffle underneath it as well, then this is much more realistic. Okay, next up I'm going to go ahead and talk about is with Dogecoin. So, we're talking about some of the top different cryptos that are out there. Dogecoin is ranked number 7. A lot of people said that, hey, if Dogecoin can go up to 31 cents and it can hit the top 10 in the cryptocurrency space, why can't something like SafeMoon be able to do that? And I think that's a perfectly feasible position to say. Something else that's pretty interesting is the amount of wallet holders that are going on for SafeMoon. It's over 1.25 million. Again, over 1.25, meaning 1,250,000 plus wallet address holders so far. All right, so Dogecoin, from what I saw as far as for the BSC scan, it was only like about 37,000, which is pretty surprising when you see how much it's trending, how much Elon Musk is promoting about it, and everyone else. So I do think that there's possibilities of there being much more wallets for Dogecoin, and I'm just not seeing a more accurate listing in regards to that. However, I do know that there's like 65% or so of the Dogecoins that are primarily within the top 10 wallet holders. It's something along those statistics, so please don't quote me exactly on that. But yes, there's a majority of the Dogecoin that are owned by the top small few group. So it's very kind of nerve-wracking whether or not they're going to be doing something with that. So anyways, we're trying to say, hey, can we try and hit a similar market cap of that with what's going on with Dogecoin? Okay, so with Dogecoin... Dogecoin has market capitalization of 40 billion, right? Or 40.6. We're going to go and round down on this one just a little bit. So that's about 10 times from the all-time high that we had with SafeMoon of 4 billion previously. I mean, again, if you guys are watching this in the future, then that all-time high may have changed. That means that there's actually 0.004, etc. percent that remains. We burned through at this point in time to be able to have it be a 1-to-1 ratio for $1, right? There's 99.98, etc. of the 99.99, etc. Sorry, of the tokens that have already been burned. So there's very few that's actually left when you take a look into consideration like this. Again, this is in the million billions place. So that's 40 billion. 600 million coins that would be left. Have to have something really dramatic take place. There are currently over 700, well, there are currently 771 wallets that have more than 40.6 billion SafeMoon in their positions. So for something like this, as you guys can see, once again, a massive amount of people would have to try and trade off all of their coins in order to get that equated to just be the same way. Next up on the list is going to be that of Binance Coin. Now, if you take a look at Binance Coin, same thing, 22 times from its all-time high. That would mean that there's 0.00877% that still remains left. We burned through most of it all. 323 wallets that currently have more than that. So as you guys can see, once again, I'm not factoring in that main account. So there's that. And then same thing with Ethereum. There's 90 wallets that have more than 316 billion of those SafeMoons. This would have to go 79.125 times higher for its market capitalization than what it has currently been able to achieve. When I say that it needs to go that much higher, please keep in mind, guys, that this coin, again, it's only about 2 months old. So the opportunity for it to be able to grow a ton more, it's there. The fact that it's been able to hit these kinds of milestones in such a short amount of time should be a big, huge staple point to kind of illustrate for you guys. Next up is the exchange values. I want to go over this just a little bit here. I'm trying to go over as many things as fast as possible for you, okay? So this is actually in reference to a Forbes graph chart that was posted before. And I just did a couple variable positions just to say like, hey, let me kind of shoot some ball around, or whatever the terminology is. Low ball it, not low ball it. I don't know. I went some variable ranges with this. So according to this chart, looking at it, let's say SafeMoon decided to try and get an allocated position as an exchange because we know that they're trying to do a cryptocurrency exchange of getting 1%. That would equate to them having about $12 million of revenue through transaction fees, etc. And that's not including the fact that if you're using this cryptocurrency as, say, is similar to something like the Binance coin, where it actually helps you get lower transaction fees, which I think is something that's more than likely going to happen. I just don't know definitively that it will. But if something like that happens, then of course you're burning even more of these tokens through all of these kinds of transactions. So 1%, you're looking at $12 million of earnings for the SafeMoon exchange. 10%, an equated version would be $120 million. That's conservative for 10%. Now 1% would be $19 million. 10% would be $190 million. On the year 2029, so now we're looking at as the exchange would have more opportunity to grow, more users come in, they troubleshoot a lot of their issues, because there's more than likely going to be issues that come up when the platform gets started, overloaded servers, and they're trying to figure that out, and downtime, etc. So if they can manage to survive all those issues, then let's say in the future here, you got 1%, that's $19 million. 10% would be $190 million. 1% of that optimistically would be $95 million, and 10% in the best case scenario, we'd probably be looking about $950 million, going close towards $1 billion. And this is just one industry space we're talking about. We're talking about with the exchanges for this. So I'm going to go ahead and continue moving on further with this, right? All right. So in addition to that, some more examples in regards to Binance. For example, if you do trades, they have their maker fee, their taker fee. If you do end up higher transaction volume, then it cuts back a little bit right there. On just the trading platform, approximately 2 million users have used the Binance coin to pay for trading fees, totaling more than 40 million Binance coins, or the BNB, on more than 127 billion trades. Now, am I saying that SafeMoon is going to be equated to the same amount of transactional volume of that of Binance? Well, in the beginning, I really, really doubt that. That's extremely low chances of that happening, okay? But some point in the future, depending on how they develop things, anything can happen. Is it likely to happen? I'm leaning more towards no, but anything is technically possible. Taking a look in comparison to this, for example, on Binance, they have 40 million of their coins that have been burned, their BNB. That's 26% of their supply. So let's just say, for example, we're still trying to aim for a 1 trillion total SafeMoon supply, because that seems like something that's more realistic for us to hit $1. Well, that means that they would be burning 260 billion of their tokens, right? And this is comparison to, again, what Binance has already been able to achieve. That's over a quarter of all the tokens. So just, again, on the exchange alone, if this was able to perform similarly and have the same kind of functions, you're looking at a quarter of the supply that's looking like it could potentially end up getting burned. So I think that's very interesting to note. Next up, the NFT space. A couple of these exchanges. One is called Non-Fungible. The other one is called OpenSea.io. Now, Non-Fungible has, in total, according to their website, had transactional volume that equated to $32.5 million approximately. Now, if I use this by comparison, for 1 trillion SafeMoons, that would only be approximately 0.0032% of that total market cap. So there is plenty of room that could grow inside of the NFT space as well, and that's something that I want to be able to make note of. If they decide to continue further on with this, which they've already talked about that they want to get involved into the NFT space. Again, one of the problems that we have, though, is that it's not out yet. This is things that have just been kind of hearsay. So you got to try and look into the future of projects and see where your value can really come in and play with that too. There are other cryptocurrencies out there that if you want to get involved with, you can. But if you're watching this video, probably one of the big reasons why you're watching this video is to see what kind of prospects that SafeMoon could really have to try and make it seem like it has much more value in the long term. So this is a prospect that you need to keep in mind. They've already mentioned they want to get involved in the NFT space. Well, there you go. Look at how much some of the other markets have been able to do, and then take a look at what we could potentially be pulling or tapping into. And also keep in mind that these industry spaces are growing. All the numbers that I'm sharing with you are based on current market data. So if the numbers are going to be going up, that means that our levels for achievements can also go up in value too. So there's much more prospect than what I'm even being able to talk about as of this moment in time. Okay? All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let me double check because I'm kind of going through everything here. Next up is going into microtransactions for the gaming space. They also mentioned that they're working on building their own video games. So if you're talking about things with currency, more than likely you're going to have forms of microtransactions. Well, how does this industry space kind of play out? So here's some market forecast predictions from some other resources that I've been able to identify for you guys. This is in reference going over to the year 2023. By this by this chart data, let's just say, for example, we were only trying to allocate 0.1% of this value in 2023 in all of the gaming space. This is one example. I'm going to go over more. That would equate to $200.8 million of revenue in regards to that of SafeMoon's pursuit. That's with 0.1%. Now, let's say they make some sort of gaming thing and it really takes off. And again, there's microtransactions that are involved. This could be through, they said, like the console subscriptions, which makes very low amounts. More than likely, they're not going to do their own console. More than likely, it's going to be an in-game thing that accounts for 77% of that total amount anyways. You got full game digital, full game box. So you got some different markets that are going in there. Let's just say, hypothetically, they pull off some crazy thing going on in the next couple of years, kind of like a Fortnite blown up overnight type of thing. And they get 1%, so that'd be over $2 billion that would, again, be added to the total value. And with that amount of transactions that are going through, just think about how many of those trades would be going on that are also getting that 10% transaction fee and helping reduce down the total supply. Because, again, 5% is getting burned every time you do a trade with this token, meaning it becomes more and more limited as a supply over time. Next up, I want to go ahead and show you guys is that of a reference chart to a 2019 base chart. This is in reference to some of the top different industry companies. You got, for example, Sony leading up the top of everything else, then Tencent, Nintendo, Xbox, etc. So I chose the lowest one on this chart, and I said, hey, with THQ Nordic, what if SafeMoon was able to get 1% of that market space? That would be $3.22 million. Still a nice little dabble in the market space, $3.22 million. Another 10%, or changing to 10%, would be worth $32.25 million. And again, that's equating to the lowest one that we're seeing on this chart, and I'm only doing a fraction of that amount. But again, we're kind of adding everything here together, so just keep that in mind. There's plenty of room to grow. Up next is into e-commerce, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know right now a little bit of a secret. I reached out to the SafeMoon staff because I had an idea, and I told them, hey, what about something like Fiverr? I found this company. They accept cryptocurrencies in which you can actually go off and do some freelance work, right? Whatever it is, voiceover thing, doing Photoshop, whatever. And on that website, you can accept cryptocurrencies as payment. However, they do not currently have SafeMoon set up. They've got some other options. There's a couple different options that you could do. And I reached out to the website and I said, I would like to work as a freelancer. Do you guys offer SafeMoon, or could you offer it? And so if SafeMoon decides to pursue this further or something along those lines, then I think it starts to delve more into an e-commerce type perspective, and that's why I want to also cover this here. So this is something that I think as a market space is going to be absolutely huge, especially obviously when you're talking about transactions using digital currencies. So it is something that should be on our radar for sure. So taking a look at this, you can look at the top 10 e-commerce retailers in the US. According to this chart in the 2020, obviously Amazon is going to be number one at the top of the list, right? So what I did is I said I'm going to go ahead and reference that of Macy's, since Macy's is once again on the lowest of the chart here. So let's really lowball it. Let's go to 0.01% of that for a 2026 projection. So we're talking a couple years into the future right here. This would actually allocate it into a position identifying it as $102 million. At 0.05%, that would put it up to $513 million. At 0.05%, that would only be 0.003% of what Macy's value is, right? So there's plenty of room to be able to grow with this. You can see the industry space being able to grow throughout this right here, okay? So plenty of room of movement. Up next, now, we're going to go ahead and just quickly go through this because I know this video is already starting to get kind of long. Now, taking a look at this, you can take a look at some of the other market spaces, what we have going on with those. So, as you guys can see, there's comparisons here. This is for Bitcoin, and this is actually outdated data. Since this has been posted, the market capitalization for Bitcoin alone has hit over $1 trillion, and the whole cryptocurrency space is approximately $2 trillion. So this identifies on the little bottom right-hand side there, you guys see 244 billion. This is data from last year. We've exponentially increased just over the course of 1 year alone. But just kind of going through all these little bits here, and I'll go ahead and elaborate more in the last slide. Again, I'm just trying to move through these fairly quickly here so you guys can see some of the different bits. If you want to go ahead and pause this at some point and take a look at what we got going on for this data, you guys can. But there's different industry spaces, obviously, with billionaires and gold, and then you got the Fortune 500 companies. You've also got the stock market, obviously. That's another space that is heavily influenced with a lot of funding. And then you got the money supply. Now we're starting to get more and more diluted as far as like what it kind of entails. This is the global debt, for example, the global real estate and the global wealth, as well as the derivatives market. And the chart gets absolutely super tiny because of just how massive it is in regards to all of that. Okay. Now, how does this actually play out with all this? So if 0.01% of SafeMoon ended up getting involved into a lot of these different industry spaces, this is what it would be looking like. Really take a look at that for a second. On the lowest end here, we have something like silver. So if SafeMoon got involved with that old data, again, this is old data. With the old data, that would be $4.39 million. If it went all the way into the derivatives market and it's somehow tapped into only 0.01% of that derivatives market, that would be $55.85 billion. Okay? Again, it's a spectrum. You guys can see as we get further down the list, obviously the number gets higher, but this is just to show you guys a little bit more of a perspective here. If 1% is allocated, then you got from silver $43.9 million all the way up to the derivatives market, which would be $558.5 billion. Do I think that this is going to get 1% of the derivatives market? Probably not. Okay, but if it can get even the 0.1% of some of these industry spaces, and they say, hey, instead of me investing into this thing, I'm going to go ahead and move some of my funds over into SafeMoon, well, then guess what? You got a much more realistic chance of trying to get towards that 1 trillion total market cap supply. This is similarly what we saw happen with Bitcoin. But obviously, Bitcoin has already hit it, and it's also the leader in the entire industry space in that regards. So this would have to be as the entire market as a whole continues to grow, which is what we're seeing happen. Okay. Now, and the next point that I want to go ahead and show you guys is what's going on with inflation. This is kind of just sort of the wrapping point that I want to go ahead and talk about with this video here. So inflation is expected to increase over the next several years. The purchasing power of the dollar is continuously going down. In addition to that, the value, and say in comparison to that, for the $5 bill has been identified that by the year 2030, it's looking to go down to being worth, basically you're going to need to spend $7.05 in order to get the same thing, right? So that's an inflation rate you're looking over the years from 2.13% moving all the way up to about a 3% variable. This is another chart diagram to just kind of illustrate that point a little bit better. So again, if you need to buy something that today would normally cost $5, that means that it's going to cost you more in the future. And by the year 2030, it's probably going to cost around $7. So that's what happens when you print lots of money. So in short, what does this mean? Well, the more money that's needed over time to buy something to have the same amount of value means that the higher prices it's going to go as well. So when I talk about that this could potentially hit $1, keep in mind that over time, the value of a dollar is also going to go down. So it's actually working in your favor that it's more likely that it could hit $1 at some point as well. And for us to hit a $1 trillion market cap, or for anything to potentially hit a $1 trillion market cap. Unfortunately, you go through these market cycles and you end up hitting what's called hyperinflation, and that's when the economies are really on the brink of collapsing and things are really, really bad. They're no bueno, right? Bad juju with all that kind of stuff. So is it theoretically possible that SafeMoon could hit $1? Yes, it theoretically is. Is it more likely that we could see 1 cent? Well, now that I've shown you all of this, how confident do you guys feel that we could hit 1 cent? That's 100 times less. I think that it's highly potential, okay? Especially depending on how the project develops and moves forward. So all I can really say is keep an eye on the project. If you want to be a part of it, remember the golden rule of investing: never invest more than what you're willing to lose. So if you think that this project has potential, I personally do. I see the amount of community engagement that's already there. I think the community has a huge say in how successful a project could potentially be from a financial perspective, at least, like a market capitalization. Great example, look at Dogecoin. A lot of people said they didn't like it because it doesn't have utility. And I was one of those people. But look, now because of its popularity, a lot of businesses are actually accepting it as a form of payment, which that alone gives it more utility. Whether you agree on it or not, the project itself is still moving forward, and it still has benefited a lot of people. So you have to think about not where we're at right now, but where are we going in the future? Where are we going to be a year and a half from now, right? Ideally, if you can hold on, then that's the people that ends up getting rewarded the most, like Warren Buffett said. So it's passing it off from those that are impatient to patient. That's the ones that reap the reward on all this. If everyone's upholding forever, then guess what? We're not going to hit $1 trillion with $1 a piece, because there's going to be more wallets, like I said, than what's available. But anyways, I hope this video was helpful for you guys. Do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video, share it on social media. Use hashtag SafeMoon. Share it on social media, on Facebook, on Reddit, on Discord. Share it on Twitter. Get the word out there, Instagram, all that kinds of stuff. I really put a lot of work into this project, into this video, and I hope you guys appreciate it. Hopefully this gave you a better understanding of the market space in general. And once again, do not forget to hit subscribe if you're new for more cryptocurrency news, technical analysis, and also diving more into SafeMoon itself. I'll keep an eye on this project a lot. And also click the thumbs up like button. It helps us out with the YouTube search algorithm. Click the bell icon so you know whenever we have a new video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next episode.